This is the Postscript XRP cast, news, analysis, and the latest moves shaking the XRP and crypto world.
All right, so today we're taking a close look at XRP, and there are a couple of big developments you really need to know about.
Yeah, for sure.
First up, we've got, it looks like a potential breakthrough in the Ripple versus SEC saga. They've both asked to hit pause on their appeals, which a lot of people are taking as a hint that a settlement might be on the horizon.
That's a big one.
And then on top of that, we've got some pretty eye-catching forecasts about the whole tokenized asset market.
Right.
Like this report from Ripple and BCG, they're predicting huge growth, and they see XRP playing a big part in it all.
Definitely.
Oh, and there's also that super optimistic price prediction from Standard Chartered we've got to unpack.
Can't forget that one.
So if you're keeping tabs on XRP, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this.
Absolutely. Let's break it down.
Okay, so first things first, this whole appeal suspension thing, what stands out to you right away?
Well, I mean, seeing Ripple and the SEC kind of presenting a united front like this is pretty remarkable, right? This lawsuit has been hanging over XRP for what feels like forever. Since December 2020.
Right.
The SEC's whole argument was that XRP should have been treated like a stock offering, like an unregistered security.
Basically, yeah.
And it's been a really contentious legal battle ever since.
Yeah.
So the fact that both sides are saying, okay, let's pause these appeals, and they're even using the phrase agreement in principle, it signals a major shift in their positions.
Huge.
Remember back in 2023, Ripple got that partial win?
Yeah.
The court basically differentiated between how XRP was sold to institutions versus on public exchanges.
Right.
But both sides appealed parts of that decision, so this joint motion really suggests they both want to finally put this thing to bed.
Okay, so let's talk about this agreement in principle because it sounds pretty formal.
Yeah, it's not just like a casual handshake agreement or something.
Right.
They filed an actual motion with the Second Circuit Court of Appeals stating that Ripple and the SEC have reached this agreement to settle their disputes. And this covers both the SEC's appeal against that programmatic sales ruling and Ripple's cross appeal about the institutional sales.
So it sounds like they're covering all the bases here.
It does. But here's the thing. It's not a done deal just yet.
Oh, right.
It still needs the okay from the SEC commissioners themselves.
I see.
The court's been told they'll get an update on the final status within 60 days of that approval.
Okay, so they're close, but there is still some hoops to jump through.
Exactly.
You know, if we zoom out a little bit, the outcome of this lawsuit is about way more than just Ripple.
Totally agree.
I mean, it's been a central point in this whole debate about how digital assets should be regulated in the U.S.
It really has.
So whatever the final terms of this settlement end up being, assuming it does actually go through, it could have a ripple effect on how other cryptocurrencies are regulated down the road.
Absolutely.
And the fact that the motion also mentions unresolved claims against Ripple's executives makes it seem like they're really aiming for a total reset, clearing the air on everything.
It does, like they're trying to make sure nothing's left hanging.
Okay, so let's talk money, because I think a lot of people are wondering what this potential settlement means for their wallets.
Yeah, that's the big question.
We don't know all the specifics yet, obviously, but there are reports going around that Ripple might have to pay a civil penalty.
I've seen those.
And the number that's been floated is around $50 million, which, I mean, it's no small amount of money, but it is a lot lower than some of the massive fines that were being thrown around earlier in the case.
Way lower.
So if that number turns out to be true, the market might see this as a pretty good outcome for Ripple.
Yeah, like they dodged a bullet.
Right, and potentially get rid of a big chunk of uncertainty that's been weighing down XRP's price and adoption for years.
Absolutely.
So a smaller than expected fine could definitely be a positive signal for investors.
For sure.
But even beyond the immediate impact of the lawsuit, we need to be looking at the bigger trends shaping the digital asset landscape.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's where this Ripple BCG report on asset tokenization comes in, right?
Oh, yeah. This is where things get really interesting.
So just for anyone who needs a refresher, tokenization is basically like taking a real-world asset.
Right, like a piece of real estate or shares in a company or maybe a work of art.
Yeah, anything like that.
And representing it digitally on a blockchain as a token.
So it's kind of like turning that asset into a digital version of itself.
Exactly, which makes it way easier to divide it up, trade it, manage it.
Like imagine trying to split ownership of a house with 10 people without tokenization.
Right, it'd be a nightmare.
Tokenization makes things so much smoother.
It does.
And this report is basically saying that this whole area is about to explode.
Yeah, they're predicting the global market for tokenized assets to go from like $0.6 trillion in 2025 to almost $19 trillion by 2033.
That's insane. Like a 53% annual growth rate?
It's massive. And the report is called Approaching the Tokenization Tipping Point, right?
Yeah, I love that title.
It argues that the way our global financial system works now is outdated, and it creates all sorts of inefficiencies.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Tokenization is supposed to fix a lot of that.
And they get into the specifics of how, right?
Oh, yeah. So one big advantage is fractional ownership.
Which means more people can invest in high-value assets.
Right. Like instead of needing millions to buy a whole building, you could buy a tiny fraction of it as a token.
That opens things up to a lot more people.
Exactly.
And then there's the speed and cost savings.
Instant transfer and settlement.
No more waiting around for banks to process things.
And lower fees, too.
Which is always a good thing.
Plus, you've got improved regulatory compliance because blockchain technology is so transparent and traceable.
So regulators can actually see where the money's going.
Exactly.
It all sounds very promising, and the report even points out that the U.S. is leading the charge in this area.
It is, especially when it comes to tokenizing things like funds and treasury bills.
So there's already a strong foundation here for growth.
And Ripple wants to be right at the heart of it all.
So according to this Ripple BCG analysis, they see XRP and the XRP ledger becoming like the backbone of this tokenized future.
Basically, yeah.
Especially when it comes to making cross-border payments and settlements super smooth.
It's like XRP would be a bridge between different tokenized assets and traditional currencies.
I like that analogy, a digital bridge.
They even say that this is turning financial assets from static instruments into dynamic software.
Wow.
Like rebuilding the whole foundation of global finance.
Which is a bold statement.
It is, but it makes sense considering what XRP can already do.
Right, like making international money transfers faster and cheaper.
If you put it all together, it's clear why Ripple is so bullish on this. This massive growth in tokenized assets is going to create a huge demand for the exact kind of solutions that XRP is built for.
It's all about being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
Okay, so for a lot of people listening, I'm guessing the big question is, what does all this mean for the price of XRP?
I figured you'd ask that.
So let's get technical for a minute. What are the charts saying?
Well, looking at the technical analysis, XRP seems to have found some support above its 200-day exponential moving average.
Which is around?
About $1.95 right now.
Okay.
And it's been testing that crucial $2 level.
So if it can close above $2 consistently on a daily basis,
it could be a sign of some serious bullish momentum building.
Bringing in more buyers.
And the next target that analysts are eyeing is around $2.25.
Which lines up with?
The 50-day and 100-day EMAs.
Those are important levels.
They often act as support or resistance, kind of like magnets pulling the price up or down.
And what about the derivatives market? There's been some interesting action there, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Reports are showing that open interest in XRP derivatives has gone up by 1.4%.
Hitting $3.08 billion.
Okay, so for anyone who's not a derivatives expert, what does that actually mean?
Basically, open interest is a measure of how much activity there is in the market for XRP futures and options.
Like how many people are trading them?
Yeah, and an increase usually means more traders are opening new positions, not just closing existing ones.
So it's a sign of growing participation.
And when you combine that with other things like a positive long-short ratio, which was seen in some analyses, it can point towards growing optimism.
People are feeling bullish about XRP.
Exactly.
But it's important to remember that technical analysis is just one piece of the puzzle.
Definitely.
XRP still has some hurdles to overcome, like that descending trend line from its yearly high.
And we can't forget about the broader market conditions and all the macroeconomic stuff happening out there.
Right. So let's wrap things up by talking about that super bullish prediction from Standard Chartered.
Oh, yeah, that one got people talking.
Their targets for XRP are pretty ambitious, to say the least.
Well, Jeffrey Kendrick, he's their head of digital asset research.
Okay.
He thinks XRP could hit $12.50 by the end of 2028.
Wow.
And he even laid out some stepping stones along the way.
Like that.
$5.50 in 2025, $8 by the end of 2026, and then $10.40 by the end of 2027.
So a pretty steady climb over the next few years.
It is, and keep in mind, those are some seriously big gains compared to where XRP is trading now.
So what are they basing those numbers on?
Well, it's probably a combination of factors, but I'd say they're factoring in the potential for these regulatory issues to finally get resolved.
Makes sense.
And they're also considering XRP's expected role in this booming tokenization market.
Right. They see XRP being a big part of that whole infrastructure.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's summarize everything we've talked about today.
Sounds good.
The appeals in the Ripple SEC lawsuit are on hold because of this agreement in principle to settle. But the SEC commissioners still have to sign off on it.
Right.
And this whole thing could have a huge impact on how digital assets are regulated in the U.S. going forward.
It's a landmark case for sure.
Meanwhile, this Ripple BCG report is predicting a massive surge in the global asset tokenization market.
It's going to go from $0.6 trillion in 2025 to almost $19 trillion by 2033.
Which is mind-blowing.
And Ripple is positioning XRP to be a key player in that space, especially for cross-border payments.
They definitely see a bright future for XRP.
They do.
From a technical perspective, XRP has found some support and could see short-term gains if it can hold above that $2 level.
That's what we're watching right now.
And the rising open interest suggests that more and more people are feeling bullish about XRP.
Which is always a good sign.
And then you've got Standard Chartered with their very optimistic long-term price prediction, seeing XRP hitting $12.50 by 2028.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So all in all, it's a very dynamic situation with a lot of moving parts.
You said it.
But I think the key takeaway for anyone listening is this.
Hit us with it.
With this long-running regulatory uncertainty potentially fading away, and XRP poised to play a significant role in the rapidly growing tokenization market, how will these things ultimately shape XRP's value and adoption in the long run?
That's the million-dollar question, and one that all XRP investors are going to be watching closely.
It's an exciting time to be following this space.
No doubt about it.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of XRP.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll be back soon with more insights and analysis.
Until next time.
Take care.
See ya.